Okay, I did this about a week or two ago. The other one was just earrings. This one is going to be one side earrings, one side necklaces, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So let's go through the stuff that you're going to need. You might not be able to get them in three. You might need to buy a bigger set, but when you buy a bigger set, you get them really cheap and use coupons. But three canvases. They do not have to be 12 inches by 16 inches. Sorry, metric people, if you could figure out the equivalent. They could be any size you want. This is the size I think is good if you're starting out. It's small, it's portable, it's not overwhelming, but it still holds quite a bit, quite a few pieces. I'm going a little bigger than my last one because the necklaces hang down longer and they might not fit as well in the one I did previously with just earrings. You're going to need wood to match. You're going to need thin wood, like an 1/8 or a 16th inch, to just be the backing of the earring side. And then you're going to need thicker wood, about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch, to be the backing of the necklace side, because the necklace side is going to hold screws. You're going to have to put screws or nails in it, so it can't be too thin. Now, how do you get these pieces of wood? If you don't have power saws to cut them yourself to the right size, go to Home Depot, find a piece of wood close in size, a little bigger, and they will cut it for you. I believe Lowe's will do it too. Most large hardware stores have saws on the premises where they will cut pieces for you, usually for free, to the size you want. You're going to want 2 pieces of wood to fit same size as the canvases you buy. Now again, you could get away with cardboard for the thin one if you want to save some money, because it's really just closing off the cavity in the back where the earring hooks would be. But for the thick one, you're going to need wood because you're going to be driving screws or nails into it. Small things, you're going to need 2 very small hinges, very small door handle. I like to get the kind only has 1 hole for a screw, so so you can place it exactly where you want it. These hinges, really small. Get 2 of them. These are the ones I got that fit really well. They don't have to be black. I like how the black looks. They could be silver, brass, doesn't matter. Gold. Glue, just get any kind of wood glue, but don't get the kind that's just made for indoor that's cheap, because I believe, just like school glue, if that stuff gets wet, it might start to dissolve. So just in case you get caught in the rain, get heavier wood glue. And if you don't have wood glue, any kind of, last time I used E6000, that's a little more expensive if you're using a lot of it, so I don't advise that, but really any kind of strong adhesive. Paint or stain. I like to stain the frames. I think it looks good, but you could stain them with watered down kids paint from the dollar store. So I happen to already have some wood stain laying around, and I use spray paint. I do all my spray paint art, so I have a lot of cans of spray paint, and I like to decorate with that. I suggest you buy a drill if you're a crafty person, or if you own a home or live in a place where things need fixing sometimes. You can't beat a drill. I mean, $40, you can get a good, decent one. You're going to want the screwdriver attachment. If you're looking and you're trying to figure out which one, it's standard, but it's also called number 2. I don't know why, but it's called number 2. You're going to want like a 16-inch drill bit. It's 1/16 of an inch, sorry. You could get away with a screwdriver in a pinch. You're going to be like, it's going to need some elbow grease because you're putting a number of screws in. So you're going to be sitting there longer, but you can do it. People back in the day, they did it all the time before electricity, so it's not the hardest thing in the world. Although even then they had these drills where you crank it. Almost forgot, 2 pieces of upholstery form. They don't need to be the full size of the canvas because they're going to go inside the canvas. So they basically need to be about 1.5 to 2 inches less in each dimension. So I'm putting here, what works with mine will be 10 by 14, about a 1/2 inch. You get this stuff cheap. If you can only find it expensive, just, ball up some old t-shirts and use them. This is basically just going to be to hold the pieces in place while your display is closed so they don't bounce around in transit. I found upholstery foam really works really good. So here is the entire thing. Go ahead and take a screenshot of that so you can take it with you to the store. And let's continue. You know what? Throw sandpaper on the list too. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take one of the canvases and put it right next to our heavy, thick 1/2 inch wood. And this is going to be for earrings. And this is going to be for necklaces. Now I would make them the same color, but you can make them different colors if you like. It's totally up to you. We're just going to put a little bit of color in here with some paint. I'd suggest going for a very mild off-white with a little bit of, you know, whatever color you like, green, tan, blue, it could be anything, but like very light, because I think very light colors is kind of in style right now as a backing for a display. Kind of pastel, but kind of faded, a little bit earth tony. So you'll see me doing that to both sides. I'm going to try to make a match. And what we're going to do later on is we're going to rip the canvas off of two of the canvases and just use the wood frame. And so we're going to have these two wood frames, and you can paint them too. You can paint them to match or paint them a color that's kind of like accentuates the other color, but I'm just going to do the wood stain. So we're going to have, you know, these two frames like this, and these frames do two things. They make the whole display look nice, but they also protect, make a cavity that protects the jewelry when we close it up. So afterwards, these are going to be glued on top of each of these, and then the thin wood is going to go in the very back of the earrings. That's the only other part right here. This is going to go in the back, and that's just so that the earrings, which are going to poke through this canvas, will have a crevice in the back where the earring hooks will stick out through the back, but this wood will protect them, so there'll be like a cavity in there, and that will so you can poke the earrings through there, but they're not going to stick out the back and get caught on stuff when you're carrying it around. So these are our 5 pieces. So this will be glued under here. This will be glued on top of here. This will be glued on top of here. And we'll let all the glue dry. And then we're going to have 2 pieces. Once the glue is all dried, all this will be glued into 2 solid pieces. And then we're going to use the hinges to connect these 2 pieces. And then we're going to put, you know, once the hinges are on and they're closed up, we're going to put some nails or screws in here to hang the necklaces, right? And right here, we're just going to punch in the earrings and hang them however we like, which is cool with the canvas because you can move them around. The hooks will punch through anywhere, and you can put them in any pattern you want. As they sell, you can rearrange them. Necklaces, I do stagger. I like to do the, you know, but you could put them all over the place as long as you don't put them too low that the necklace is going to hit the bottom. And then we're going to put, you know, when you close it up, you put the foam over the top of each. You put the foam inside the frame, actually. That's why you don't need the foam to be as big. And then you fold it up and you have a little suitcase. So you're going to put the handle screwed into the top. And then once we have our little suitcase, if you can picture it like this, all folded up. Here's all the layers and the handle. Like that. Then we're going to put 1 screw here, 1 screw here, and hair ties. Oh, forgot to tell you to get the hair ties too. That was in the last video. So the only thing that wasn't on the last list is hair ties and sandpaper, because if these pieces of wood are fresh cut, you're going to want to sand the edges so there's no splinters in danger of scratching or coming off on you or someone else. Just a light sanding on the edges. You don't need to like go crazy with it. So that's what we're about to do. Let's do it. One more thing I slightly messed up on. When I say put 1-inch screws, you want to go 3/4 inch, half inch to 3/4 inch. So just change that on there. That should be 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch. Well, 1 inch is going to be too long. 3/4 inch I think is probably ideal. But anyway, let's do that. And I said you need about 12. Yeah, 12 is probably good. 12 to 14. You could get a few more just to be on the safe side. 12 to 15. All right, let's continue. So here's our 2 parts. Remember, this is going to be earrings, this is going to be necklaces, but we're going to go for the same color. So I want to make them kind of a light grayish, lavenderish. So I'm going to start by putting some purple down, some very light purple. You don't have to have any particular color, just blending a lot of white and black and other colors you have. You can often come up with colors you don't have. but that's just a fun experiment in color blending. This is automatically darker because of the wood, so I'm going to add some white to that. Gloves, so I'm just going to use this plastic bag and get any kind of rag. I'm going to use, I have a lot of old socks, so I'm just going to use those. Let's just slather that goody stuff on. Rub it on good, rub it in good. It dries really quick if you rub it in really good and don't leave it any wet spots. Every side, except you don't need to do the very back. I pretty much kept it off of this hand. I got it on this hand. Maybe you should add gloves and mask to the list. Keep thinking of things. Now this, last time I did it, that looks good and all, but I feel like with this light, pretty purple, I want to kind of do this, the frame to match. Again, you don't need to use stain at all. You can use your paint, your watered down acrylic, whatever you want. So I'm just going to give this guy a little bit of a, on top of the wood, a little bit of a more color going on. There we go. Do the edges a little bit. Rub it in real good. There we go. Now, remember, this edge doesn't matter because the frame is going over it. However, this edge does, and you want to do all your painting and staining before you glue it. So let's just give this edge a little bit of a... I hit this with the stain last time to match the wood. Bad idea, because the wood stain for some reason takes forever to dry on canvas. I don't know why. It doesn't soak it up right. So I'm going to try to mimic that wood look with some spray paint on here. Just putting the same colors on. See if we can blend it enough that it kind of blends in. There we go. That's a little better. It's not a perfect match, but it doesn't look like starkly sticking out as different. Same with the edge of the wood, right? Just right along there. Just kind of give it a little color. And last but not least, the back of your thick wood and also one side of your thin wood, you're going to want to stain or paint to match the rest of the piece, unless you don't care, because this is going to be on the back when you open it up, but when you close it as a suitcase, this is going to show. So, you know, can't hurt. Might as well just make it all look good. Makes you feel good about the whole thing. So I'm going to throw a little bit more wood stain on this part, and then some of the more of the colors that I had before. Probably should have told you to just stain the thick wood like all the way around just to make it easy, but live and learn. Remember, you don't want to get that wood stain on the light part. That's the part that's going to show. and the edge of the thin wood. This is the only part you don't need to worry about. This is going to be in hiding on the back of the canvas. So one side of your thin wood you do not need to paint because that's not going to show. I managed to get this. I think it's 1/8 inch thick. You can get thinner. You can get 1/16. You can get masonite, which is that cardboardy, hardboard stuff that goes in the back of bookshelves. You could literally just do cardboard. It's up to you. Now this guy, don't want to put too much because you don't want it to be squeezing out all over the place. Just a good, nice, decent amount. And put this right here, right on top of there. Line it up again. Make sure it's all good. Okay, now this is one piece and this is one piece. They're not gluing these two together. We're just going to put them on top of each other, assuming all your paint and everything is dry. And make sure nothing slid. Make sure they're still lined up nicely. And we're going to get something heavy, put it over top. This box of spare parts, and we will be back in about 3 hours to do the rest of it. Okay, it's been about 3 hours. These are glued pretty strong. We got the frame, the canvas, and the thin wood. And over here we have the canvas and the thick wood. This one's going to be for necklaces. They're going to hang from here down, so we're going to mark out where we want to put the little screws to hold them. I'm going to stagger them, but then make them about 1 inch apart. Just eyeball it. And, ooh, this is a lot. Oh, yeah. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's awesome. Okay, with our tiny drill bit, we're going to drill just a tiny bit of a pilot hole. We're only going to go about halfway down as far as the screw, like barely 1/4 of an inch or 1/2 centimeter. Just so the screw can get started, and that keeps the wood from splitting. But if you don't have this and you're just putting it in by hand with a screwdriver, it'll be fine, because as long as you get small enough screws. This is just a little extra. I got these, but you don't have to get 100. These are 1/2 inch, number 6. Like I said, you can get 1/2 inch or 3/4 of an inch. Number 6 is a good width of, that's the width of the screw. You don't want to go smaller than that, because then you're going to have to get a different kind of drill bit. Number 6 is good. Number 8 is going to be a little bigger. You're definitely going to want pilot holes for that. So let's put these guys on. You only have to put them in about halfway. Just let them stick out about 1/4 of an inch to hold the necklace. Really, you can have them stick out a whole 1/2 inch if you have longer screws, as long as they're not sticking out more than this frame comes up. You can do these with nails. If you find small nails, you can do nails and a hammer. If you do nails, you might want to angle them up a tiny bit, up from in the opposite direction of where the necklace will hang, so that the necklace doesn't slip off. Because sometimes, depending on the kind of nail, it's not rocket science. Just whatever you have should work. Now, between these two, we're going to put the hinges, and we're going to close it up the way it would go, and then turn it like that. Make sure they're lined up right. Sometimes you could put something in front of it to hold it in place until you get your stuff ready. I'm going to place them just like that. If you get the hinges small enough, you can get them right in the center of these two boards. You don't want to have the screw go into a crack like that because it's not going to hold and it could separate the boards. These usually come with screws, but again, I put a teeny tiny bit of a pilot hole because that's going to hold it better. But if you have a screwdriver, these will work with a screwdriver. It's not going to split the wood probably because these are pretty tiny screws. And screwdrivers are actually more gentle than a drill. Again, I'm just going in about half as far as the screw would for my, if you do end up putting the pilot hole. Okay, now on the other side from the hinges, we're going to put a screw on each side. I just realized this one I did the inner and this one I did the outer because this wood is still not quite as fat, but that's fine. As long as they're not too close together, because this is just where we're going to put the hair tie. So I'm going to have a little bit of tension pulling. And you know what? Scratch the 1/2 inch. I did 1/2 inch, it works, but I would get 3/4 inch screws for this whole project. I think 3/4 inch is better for this part and better for the little parts holding the necklace. So live and learn. Okay, so here's our hinges. Here's our where we put the hair tie to close it. So this would be the top. Check to make sure this is where I have the screws to hold the necklaces. So this is the top. And just pick one of these two as close to the middle as possible to put your handle. Again, try to get a handle that only needs one screw on each side. All right. Cut your foam 2 pieces to fit the inside of the frame. Roughly, doesn't have to be perfect. And then poke your earrings on this side, hang your necklaces from this side, put the foam down, close it up, take one of your hair ties, wrap it around twice, keep it shut, and bam, you have suitcase instant display.